Welcome to the show, Miss Leigh Brown. I am so excited to have you here. I mean, this is like bucket list dream come true to have you as a guest on my podcast. And before we get started, I want everyone to know, at Real Estate by Relationship, we talk about relationships, and you can build relationships with anyone you want to. And this is proof, because I was a Leigh Brown fangirl, still am, but I was a fangirl for so long. And how did I build a relationship with you, Leigh? At conferences, coming up and talking to you, sending you messages, writing you notes, all the things we talk about here.
All the nice things. And you even said hey to me going the other direction on the escalator, or I said hey to you or something, and it was just a happy moment because you had good lip color that day. And frankly, if you want to do real estate by relationships, you got to compliment people unexpectedly. And you are always on point with your lip color, sister. Always.
You are so sweet. Well, how our relationship developed is exactly what I want to express here, is that relationships matter, and relationships do turn into friendships, and clients can become friends, and clients can become advocates. And so I'm already getting into the content, but before we do that, Leigh, please share who you are, what you do, where you're from, just in case our friends don't know you, which they'd be living under a real estate rock if they don't know who you are.
But they might also be your friends and clients who are listening to your podcast because they love you so much and they want to support you. And it was really funny because when you said, now before we get into it, I was waiting for you to say, I want to thank my sponsor XYZ because you're doing your pro podcast here. And I figure it's going to be sponsored at some point. So that's what I was waiting on, was the commercial. So I guess if you're listening or watching this and you want to sponsor Barb's podcast, you should totally reach out to her. But anyway, I'm a 20-year realtor. I'm in Concord, North Carolina, which is in the Charlotte area. And I'm a broker. I have an independent firm. I sell houses every day, every other day, depending on how many houses there are to sell. North Carolina, we got a lot of people in from California. Yeah. You want a lower tax environment, a little more freedom, a little more liberty. Whoop, whoop, we're over here.
Don't tell all my friends and family to leave.
Oh, they can. You can sell it, and I can sell them something here. And then eventually you can get on the moving truck and come on with them. But anyway. So that's what I do. And I'm also a volunteer with the National Association of Realtors and the North Carolina Realtors and my local association, the Central Carolina Realtors. I'm on the board of director for Habitat, and for the YMCA, I'm pretty much a volunteer and association junkie because I love my community and I love doing lots and lots of things at the same time so that I never get bored. So that's
well, you're definitely not a boring person. You do way too much. You're also an amazing speaker, trainer, educator, and author.
And the mom, I have 2 teenagers. I got a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. So bring it, people.
Yeah, you've got it going on in more ways than one, which is why I look up to you and why you have become a mentor. And I'm proud to say a friend of mine. So guys, relationships and stalking people works.
If you're pretty chill about your stalking, let's just be honest. Nobody's sliding into the DMs because that's weird. And I kind of hate that phrase. Can we just make that phrase go away?
Right. I mean, okay.
Slide into my DMs. How can you send me a message? Isn't that okay to say anymore?
Right. I like to prefer send me a private message. A slide into the DMs I don't know where that came from. We'll have to ask Chelsea. Chelsea's going to be on next week.
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
We'll have to ask Chelsea.
Can you please just ask her when she's going to give me a makeover, because her makeup is always so perfect.
Oh. I know.
Trying to be gross and average. She's like a bazillion multipliers time.
I know.
Together than the rest of us. So yeah, y'all should totally be subscribing to the podcast so you can make sure you don't miss an episode, because Chelsea's freaking awesome. And I met her through you. See?
You did.
My relationship. I met her at the Wall Street Association meeting, and I'm sitting there writing notes, and I'm like writing as fast as my little arthritic hands can write. And then I started stalking Chelsea. And now I can call her a friend. So
right?
I'll connect.
See, it's all about connection. So let's get into it. You mentioned that you're a broker. You manage agents. You have a team. Relationships is my jam. It's the only way I've done business for 18 years. I know that you do a lot of different things, but you do also preach the power of relationships and doing business with the people that already know you and like you, and creating a system for them to trust you. So you've got agents in your brokerage. You've developed a business by relationship. What are your top 3 tips for agents who want to work relationally, don't know how, and don't know what system to apply?
Well, they all have a smartphone. And if y'all didn't know, there's a contact thing in your smartphone. It's like a little phone book. And then if you match somebody's name, there's my friend Koki Adasi. He's a realtor in Washington, D.C. And if I weren't on this podcast, I'm seeing his face and I'm seeing his name. I'm like, I love him. And if you hit his phone number, it'll call him and I can hear his voice. Oh, did y'all know your smartphones would actually call people? And it's the number one thing realtors don't want to do. And you're going to tell me that Leigh, my clients text. I don't give two rips if they text. You could still call them and then you could text them and say, hey, that was me calling you and I just wanted to hear your voice. That is magic elixir. And y'all, I don't know why you're so afraid of calling people. And I love realtors to say, but they might think I'm a scammer. I'm like, actually, no, if you saved them in your phone, you might be saved in theirs. And they'll say, that's my realtors. That's the number one thing, is making outbound phone calls, and not to randos, not Zillow leads and Realtor.com leads and any of that stuff, but the people who already have you saved in their phone. And then here's what you're going to say, because the next thing you'll say, but like, what am I supposed to say, Leigh?
Yep.
You're supposed to say, hey, this is Leigh Brown with One Community Real Estate, because every phone call you make, first name, last name, company affiliation. I don't know why y'all want to talk on a phone like this. Hello. Stop it. It's so stupid, because I told you I have two teenagers. So I'm standing in the grocery store all the time when my phone rings. I say, good afternoon, Leigh Brown with One Community Real Estate. And who hears me? Oh, all the moms near me in the beer den where we're drinking while we're in the middle of shopping. And so they're like, oh, Leigh Brown, what's up? I heard your voice. If you say hello, you miss all the marketing opportunities for people to come say hey
Wow.
to you. Reiterate that you're in real estate. And for the record, if you can't name your brokerage out loud because you're not proud to be with that brokerage, you probably had out to change. But anyway, so that's what people don't do that they should be doing.
So you're telling me that the telephone makes outgoing phone calls?
I know, right? Like with voices. And then you don't just scroll, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, because that ain't prospecting, you bunch of lazy people. And so when you call them and you say, hey, this is Leigh Brown with One Community Real Estate, and they say, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're like, I don't know, what y'all doing? What's going on at your house? Y'all doing good? Just thought I'd check on you. How y'all doing? That's what your phone call should look like. You got to stop thinking that you have to say, well, who do you know that needs to buy or sell real estate? Did you know our inventory is at historic lows and interest rates are at historic lows? And why in the hell does any realtor make that disgusting sales pitch on the call? Just call and say, hey.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you what they're going to ask you is this. But how's real estate?
Yep.
And you make a giant mistake too, because then you start rambling about inventory and interest rates. Here's how you respond to how's real estate. Why are you asking? Every time somebody says, how's the market? I say, why are you asking? And they say, well, I mean, that's just curious. I'm like, look, reason I asked that, I could talk about it 9 ways to Sunday, because are you talking about Fannie and Freddie reform? Are you talking about proposals to property tax increases? Are you talking about what's selling right now? Are you talking about interest rates, mortgages, refis? Do you need to put granite in your house? Do you need a landscaper? Y'all going to put in a pool right now? I said, I can go in a million directions. And then they go, they said, well, actually, I was just asking because we're curious if we should refi. Yeah. Oh, what kind of loan y'all got? I don't know. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. What interest rate are you paying? I don't know. And I say, Mary. And I say, how long have y'all been in the house? I don't know. I say, Joseph. I mean, come on, y'all. They don't know anything about this stuff. And I'm like, go home, look it up, call me back.
Right.
Tell you yes or no, and I'll tell you who to call. And so I'm cementing the relationship that I'm not going to judge them for not knowing, and that I have solutions, and that I know that the solutions I have need to be personal to them. Because as realtors, we often just have this general book of solutions, and we're just going to read everything to everybody, and nobody wants that.
What do you ask? I love that. I'm a huge proponent of everything you said. You call to check in, you're seeing how people are doing, and then they're 9 out of 10 times going to say, hey, how are you? How's business? How's the kids? How's real estate? But I'm guilty, will go back with how real estate is, not answering their question of why they even asked to begin with. Because in my world, it could be that, hey, I just heard my neighbor down the street got 30 offers and 50,000 over asking. Is that really true? And then they're asking about the market. Then you can go into what's really going on.
And again, that's a personalized answer specific to their neighborhood, specific to a situation. Whereas as realtors, you know what most realtors say. How's the market? They say, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. And the minute you say, I'm so busy, I'm writing offers, I'm working all the time, you just told the person who asked you, I don't really have time for you.
Yep, 100%.
Because all they wanted to ask was about refi, and now they're going to feel guilty for asking you something that's not going to get you paid, and so they don't. And so what do? They ask somebody else.
Yep.
And now they're building relationship with somebody else.
Yes.
Or you know what? There is a competitor sign in the yard, and you're going, oh, type it on Facebook. People are not loyal.
Yes.
And then you're further destroying all your other relationships. And so that's the second piece of advice is don't type in all caps on social networks. And if you're using more than 2 exclamation points about something besides a kid's celebration or a dog or a cat, then just stop and backspace.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, stop.
Love that. Okay. So building relationships we know is key. We know one of the keys is outgoing phone calls and connecting with people, because you do have to stay in touch and stay in their mind. Like mind share and top of mind is so important in real estate. And in the very few transactions that I've lost in my career for a repeat transaction, it's always been me going back and looking and taking an honest checkup and look and go, oh, wow, it's been a long time since I've reached out to them. I haven't talked to them in months. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm the responsible one and why I didn't get that listing back.
Guilty. So do y'all want to know the solution to what Barb's talking about? Because here's the problem with that. You already know all the people you haven't called. And so then you run into the realtor trap of, well, I haven't called them, so I can't call them. And so I can't call them and I don't call them. And the time continues to expand.
Yep.
So now you can never call them. And so here's what you're going to call them and say. You're going to say, hey, this is Leigh Brown in One Community. How are you? They'll be like, well, good. How are you? I'm like, I need to ask your forgiveness. Will you forgive me for something? And you know what they always say? Well, maybe it's because I'm in the Bible Belt. Y'all have to try it out for California, but they'll say, it's fine. What in the world do I need to forgive you for? And I'll say, because I haven't been a typical realtor and called and pestered you and stayed in touch. And I should have, because I just love you and I suck. So will you still love me? And they giggle. And y'all should know, like I use humor in my business all the time because humor is the number one way to make defensive walls drop.
Absolutely.
They're going to tell you they forgive you because they haven't thought about you in 5 years. Let's be honest. I don't know why realtors we think that the world revolves around us and that all of our clients are just waiting for us to call every day and we didn't call and they're hurt. No, they forgot about you because they're like, living life. And so if you call and say, I'm sorry I haven't pestered you and kept up with you, they'll be like, that's cool. And then once you break the wall down, you're back in.
Absolutely.
But now you have to follow up again. And so I will calendar another phone call 6 months from now just to say, oh, hey, so in my effort to not have to apologize to you anymore, here I am. What y'all doing? And people they get back in the flow. And you can get back in the flow, but it's never going to happen if you get in your own way. So you have to get up off your dead ass and do it. The only way to succeed in real estate is activity.
100%. I love that you said that because I often say your clients don't know how you're supposed to be doing it. Your clients don't know that you should be in touch with them every month in some way. Your clients don't know that you should be in front of them. They don't know how we should be doing it. So why are we afraid to call them and check in 6 months later if we haven't talked to them in 6 months?
Because you got to remember that most of them would call you. Most of them liked you. They thought you were all right. You didn't maybe do a great job because they got stressed out, but frankly, real estate is stressful, but they thought you were pretty nice. So when they go to sell in 5 years, they would like to call you. But the reason they don't is they cannot remember your name.
Exactly.
All they can remember is that there was some red on the sign. Well, that can be most of the signs in real estate. Maybe they remembered some blue. Well, that's the other half of the signs in real estate. And so you're not giving them enough to go off of to find you. And then if you're a lady agent, well, you might have gotten married or divorced and now your name has changed. And how are they supposed to hunt you down? I mean, it's not as easy as you think it is for them to have you at the center of their universe.
Well, and when I get an email or a text message from a client that is reaching back out for me to sell their home again, it pains me when they say to me, I don't know if you remember me.
I know. I feel like a dog when they say that.
Oh my gosh, Leigh. Of course I remember you. I mean, I haven't called you in a year, but and for everyone listening from episode 2, these would be my 2-star people, my 3-star people where remember I said if I saw them in the grocery store, I might not recognize their face because they're just from so long ago before I really knew how to nurture people and nurture relationships.
Or frankly, before hair, right? And so like if my early clients always laugh at me because when I got in the business, my hair was halfway down my back.
No way.
Oh yeah, it was longer than yours. It was the natural color of a dark chestnut. And so my early clients are always cracking up. They're like, we have followed your hair this whole time. And I'm like, well, if I see them, they may have gone through the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know them if you hadn't kept up.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, that brings me to social media. I preach one of the best ways to stay in touch with people as far as knowing what's going on in their lives is to be friends with your clients on social media because your clients are telling you everything you need to know. Now, for those of you that can't see Leigh making some faces at me right now, this is where I'm going to teach her something. So staying in touch with my clients on social media has been one of the best ways for me to take relationships down the road, because here's the deal. People like to share everything on social media. Not everybody, but a lot.
You're younger than I am, so there's also that.
Well, I'm going to challenge Miss Leigh Brown that if she was to go through and create a friends list for her top 20 clients on social media, and she was to check that A+ 5-star client list every single day, she would find at least one reason every day to reach out and connect with her past clients.
So what do you do when you have 5,000 friends on Facebook and you're maxed out?
You create a friends list. You create a friends list of just your clients.
They're not my friends.
Well, then you need to remove some realtors who just are stalking you and have not made any attempt to build a relationship with you, and you go through and you have no clue who they are. Or, you know how many creeps you probably have following you?
Oh, girl, there's so many.
Yeah, so why don't you go remove 20 of those and add in 20 past clients? Okay, the point of this podcast today is not to teach Leigh Brown how to do social media, but clearly she should be taking a class from me, guys. I think maybe she needs some social media training. But anyways, we digress. Okay, but one more thing on that same bandwagon is so many realtors tell me, I don't want to be friends with my clients. And my answer to that is, you don't have to be their best friend, but you have to want to have a relationship with your clients, or working relationally won't work.
Well, and honestly, you could choose to connect on LinkedIn. And so if you're the person for whom Facebook is super personal for you, then LinkedIn can be your client's face. So I do tend to connect with my clients on LinkedIn, and I have some that I interact with on Facebook and some that I interact with on Instagram, because one of the things that I ask people is, which social media is your jam?
Yep.
And frankly, that should be a question you ask everybody you work with, so that you know where they interact. Well,
Yep.
I'm in a banking market, so a lot of my people are on LinkedIn because
Makes
that's
sense.
where they work. So the buyer I talked to yesterday, she's a high up executive at a big bank. Well, I know how I'm connected to her. It's because there's a past client that we have in common on LinkedIn. You can see those connections.
Yes.
Come on, guys. I mean,
Love it.
we sometimes get into our own heads, right? And we think everybody should be where we are. But as realtors, you're most successful when you go where your people are.
Yes.
There.
Yes, 100%. Okay, let's transition into a topic that I know you know a ton about, and I just want to spend a few moments on it because 2021 is coming, and it's coming fast. And Leigh, how do you plan for 2021 when 2020 was a
shit show?
Thank you.
I mean, you're the delicate one here, obviously, in this relationship. I'm not.
I'm sure anyone that knows both of us knows that's true. Although some of my friends might be shocked.
I don't know. Harold will get my back on this, but he has to work with you, so we know how that goes.
Yeah.
If you think about it, every year is a shit show. Every year has unexpected things. And why is that? Because life is life and you are you.
Yep.
If you remember that life is life and you are you, you will know that nothing is ever supposed to be perfect or supposed to turn out the way that we had planned. Because for heaven's sakes, how many of y'all could go back to your high school yearbook and read an entry where you told somebody what you were going to do with your life? You were probably going to be married to somebody different than you're married to now. You were probably going to be doing a job different than you're doing now. But if you went back to your high school self, you wouldn't tell high school self, girl, stay put, never change. You wouldn't do that. But we tell each other that at that time. And so I look at that as that's how life progresses. And so 2020 has been fantastic in a lot of ways. It has given us excuses to take down our digital barriers and rebuild relationships because we're so desperate for them. But we've also taken our digital barriers down and created better digital relationships through tools like Zoom. And we've gotten a little less superficial on the whole. We've paid more attention to where we spend our money. We've paid more attention to what our role is with our elected officials, because they've taken so much away from so many of us without any permission at all. And start looking at all the different ways we've learned this year. I'm looking at 2021. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to have to figure it out as it goes. But every year I do business planning in December. We call it a team advance. And I started doing that about 19 years ago. I'd been in the business a year and we started our team advances. We don't call it a retreat because we're not looking backwards. We call it an advance because we're looking forward. And in the past, I used to sit down and set a goal for the team, for the company. Here's our big number. How do we get there? But a few years ago, I realized that was artificial. What I needed to do was figure out what everybody's goals were and add them up. And that became our total goal. And so everybody doesn't have income goals. And this was something that is hard for a realtor leader to get around because we're so used to judging everything by commission dollars and transaction size. And we turn into the BSD whenever you sell a big one. And if you don't know what BSD means, you can go look it up. I'm not going to be that tacky on Barb's podcast. If you think about it, we judge everything in frames of money. And then with my team, every year at our advance, somebody will say, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to read an extra book this year. I want to have a better vacation where I don't answer my phone. And so we're looking at how do we help each other achieve different things. COVID has given everybody a different perspective on that. And so the question becomes, how much do we retain from our good lessons of 2020 so that we can think about a better hybrid role in a lot of scenarios going forward? But also, how do we maintain the humanity that we've clung to in a time of great division? So I'm looking at 2020 and thinking, it can't be any worse than this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could though. I mean, I could have lost some loved ones. I could have had the COVID and been one of the 0.004% that dies from it. I mean, you just don't know. Things can happen.
Yeah. So 2021, you're saying just lay it out what you, and hope for the best that what you want to happen will happen.
It's not a business plan, right? Let's just be honest. Hope is not a business plan, but you can lay out your goals. You can set aside the steps that will help you get there. Knowing that there's things in your life that are out of your control. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expected the COVID. Nobody expects to have inventory levels at such ridiculously low levels that you don't have the foggiest idea when your buyers can ever get into a house. Nobody expects inflationary pressures and fiscal decisions that are going to impact all of us when it comes to liquidity. Who knows? But you can still set a goal and you can do the activities required to get there. It might mean you do more activities than usual to get there, but you still do them.
I was just going to say,
life is life and you are you. Do this once in a while and be like, I mean, is what it is.
Well, you set a plan, you set goals, you create your action steps, you do the activities. And one thing that I've held with me my entire real estate career that has kept me sane is that all you can do is focus on the activities, not the results. We can't control the results.
Boom.
All we can do is control the activities. Okay. Last topic. We're on a 3-topic roll today. I would be remiss if I've got one of the best advocates for our real estate industry with us today, if you didn't know that about her. She will be the 2021 VP of Advocacy for the National Association of Realtors as one of Charlie Oppler's VPs, otherwise known as kind of the right hands. And we need to have a conversation about RPAC, because if I'm going to do one thing with this podcast is educate our real estate industry on the importance of understanding RPAC, what it does for our realtor association, what it does for our communities, what it does for our clients. And some realtors need to get their blindfolds off in saying that NAR doesn't do anything for me and NAR is just for the MLS. There's so much more. And so Leigh, give us a little RPAC conversation, a little, this would be mother hen coming down to the children. And
well, you know, the 30 under 30s do nickname me Mama Leigh, and I kind of love that. Harrison Beecher started that.
Love Mama Leigh.
They call me Mama Leigh. So when a 30 under 30 calls me like Mama Leigh, I'm like, all right, what do I need to help y'all with?
Love that.
So, and by the way, I'm so proud because Harrison Beecher is going to be our chair for the Major Investor Council in 2022. And he's one of our shining stars in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely, he is. Yeah.
So anyway, the reality is, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm supposed to know what that means. RPAC is the Realtors Political Action Committee. And so you've heard of PACs and you probably think of them and then cuss immediately afterwards. And you say things like, money has no place in politics, which is a pipe dream. And let's just be real, that's not happening. And if you're in California, you have the RAF, the Realtor Action Fund. And so that's very important as well, that you understand when we're talking political pictures and outcomes and goals, it's where you live. It's Long Beach. It's where your state is, California, God bless. And then it's the United States. And so it's this giant big picture. And at the National Association, we refer to the 3-way agreement because every realtor, whether you knew it or not, you belong to 3 associations. And so we do politics on all 3 levels because Oh, what they do determines what you get to do. And you need to remember that. Talk about being a country of liberty and freedom, but we only have as much freedom as our elected officials give us, which means, to be frank, we need to elect a whole bunch of different people.
Yes.
So anyway, realtors work in this PAC world, political advocacy, 51 years. And so the whole goal of this podcast is, of course, relationships. Well, for 51 years, what we've done as realtors is build relationships so that when the time comes, we can then make an ask. Unfortunately, for many people, and part of the reason a lot of realtors fail out of the gate is you go in and make an ask before you ever build a relationship.
Yes.
It's the same thing as what you're doing to be successful as a sales agent is what makes us successful in politics. So with our elected officials, we know the spouses and the kids and where they live, and we know what their day job is or was. We know what their politics are, and we know how to have conversations and build relationship because, frankly, it's not so much about the politics as it is the people, and realtors are really good at that. And so for 51 years, we built these relationships. And why does that matter? And why do realtors need to be involved? Well, friends, there is no National Association of Homeowners. If you don't have the realtors out there addressing the really not sexy topics like flood insurance reform, like property tax levels, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and what's going to happen to the GSEs or your government sanctioned entities, what's going to happen with the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. California was all mad because of salt. New York was mad because of salt. But can I just remind y'all that it took away the tax benefit from the highest wage earners? And some of y'all like to bitch about wealthy people, but they were the ones that lost their benefits. You normal people kept yours. I'm just saying. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting little dichotomy going on there. But regardless, as realtors, when we see legislation proposed, our job is to go in and say, D's and R's aside, how does this impact our property owners and impact our rights as Americans? Because y'all, real estate, the last bastion of true entrepreneurism in the world. We are the last country with great property rights and where you have the freedom to be an Airbnb if you so choose. And so as realtors, we feel like we have an obligation to protect our jobs so that other people can have this same opportunity that you and I have had. I mean, we're women broker owners with no ceiling. We can make as much as we want to make, grow however we want to grow. Real estate's one of the professions with a low barrier to entry. You don't have to have a college degree to get in or a ton of money. You just have to have a lot of drive and a lot of willingness to learn, and you can make it. And I love that about us. And with real estate, you're in an expensive market, but you have people in your market that are buying their first homes in Omaha, Nebraska, and in Kansas City, Missouri, because those are more affordable markets. And so they say, you know what, I still want a piece of the action, even if I can't afford it in California. And real estate gives people that opportunity to build their financial security and grow. And so the work that we do on political advocacy has nothing to do with candidates in the White House. So you should know not a penny of our money messes around with the presidential race because, frankly, we're not big enough to play in that sandbox. It's too expensive. But where we're impactful, school board. How many of y'all wish you had a school board that would let your children go to school right now? Or that would have let your kids go to school before if they were just paying the slightest bit of attention to any of the data or listening to pediatricians? Well, it doesn't matter what you think emotionally if you're able to think rationally, but do we think rationally about school board candidates? Actually, no. You go to the booth and you're like, I am all one or the other on president, maybe even Senate, maybe governor. And you're like, school board, you're like, well, that name sounds good. Have I heard of her before? Well, let's just pick him. And that's how people vote for things like school board, mayor, council, county commission. Those are the people who set the rules for schools, who set the rules for environmental overlays, who set the rules on permits, regulations, transfer taxes, impact fees, all of those things that add up. And if you want to know why that client of yours had to buy in Omaha, Nebraska, have you looked at the regulatory environment and the cost of permitting in California? Maybe they couldn't afford to build something at an affordable level because of government overreach. And so as realtors, we go in and say, now pump the brakes for a second. Property owners shouldn't have to pay for every single pipe dream you people have. That's our political advocacy work. Same thing on the state level. You're fighting to make sure you maintain portability for your senior citizens on fixed income. Isn't that a bipartisan, nonpartisan thing? Amen. Hallelujah. It should be. 100%. AB5. Should AB5 be set on fire and run out of town? Yes, because you ruined Uber and Lyft and contractors and all these people who want the freedom to work. And realtors look at legislation like that, and we call our legislators and say, yeah, we're independent contractors too. Why don't y'all get off their backs a little bit? That ain't cool, because there's people that are making decisions that aren't educated. And as realtors, we love educating. We educate buyers and sellers about the market and interest rates and how to make a successful offer to purchase. We also educate legislators and say, hey, here's what this bill says. Let me give you 2 bullet points and you can understand what it means to the voters in your district who happen to be my clients. Because guess what, friends? If you're a realtor who sells houses, you impact the vote. So you need to make sure that your elected officials know that what we do is educate people. I educate all the time. And so you think about that on a bigger picture. You're thinking, Leigh, I'm still not bought in. All right, let's talk about the COVID. Talk about the pandemic era. How many of y'all were trapped in your houses, unable to work, not allowed to work because some asshole in the government said you were not essential? Well, the reason they think you're not essential is, first of all, they watch too much HGTV and they think our jobs all happen in 30 minutes, where they look at 3 houses, sit by a waterfront cafe and pick one and shazam, it's done. Or they last bought a house 35 years ago and they have now so much money from serving in office, which is a different decision altogether. And so they've forgotten what it's like to have to go find a loan with 5% down when that's all you could scrape up the cost of living. They don't have the foggiest idea what realtors do. So they shut you down. They think you have open houses with 50 people in it. We know that only happens on $1 million listing because they won't. But those people are crazy. But anyway, they don't know what we do until we tell them. So they shut us down from working. Well, they shut us down and our clients are still calling you. You had a client, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Can I sell? Can I have a showing? How am I supposed to handle this? Because even while they're panicked about the COVID, they're also thinking, my next house is going to be done. I'm getting relocated. I'm getting divorced. Mama died. Things happen in life where people still need their realtor and their realtors weren't allowed to help. So if you think politics doesn't matter, I beg to differ, because those people told you what you could and couldn't do. And that's bullshit, because most of y'all can do a lot of work by Zoom. You can do a lot of work by cell phone. And every realtor I know has done their level best to abide by these draconian rules about this made up mask mandate and gloves and booties. I still want somebody to explain to me how a booty is going to keep
or not make you slip and fall.
Are they licking floors?
Right? Well, to summarize everything you just said, if people aren't understanding what RPAC does, is it helps elect realtor-friendly, housing-friendly candidates.
Well, and it educates voters too, because we do a lot of campaigns to say to people, this is what the House bill being proposed says. We need you as a citizen voter to know this is what's going on, because for a lot of your clients, y'all are dialed into the podcast. You're obviously paying attention. Your other realtors are not. Your clients are not. And in fact, they're so burned out on how crappy the news media is now. They've turned off the news altogether. Right. And so they go to the voting booth pretty much a blank slate themselves, except for the top of the ballot. Exactly. As realtors, we're trying to impact the entire ballot and say we need people who will listen, who will pay attention, and will help protect the clients and communities that we serve. Absolutely. Because at our core, realtors believe in housing opportunity for all. Period. That's how you can boil down everything that we do.
Well, and let's talk about the couple wins that we've had. Let's talk about the fact that we were put on the federal essential list, although we know at the local and state level that was difficult for some areas. We had a huge win.
I'm still in phase 2. What are you still in right
now? we are colors now. We're a coloring book in California. But let's talk about the fact that realtors may not have been included in the PPP loans as independent contractors if NAR wasn't on the, we need to include independent contractors in the PPP and the, some of the CARES Act. There's so many things, and we could go on for hours about the things
but let's point out one thing about that, because there's something really impactful about this. A lot of realtors stay away from politics because you don't want to get mired into special interest groups. You don't want to get mired into one party. So first of all, wipe that out, because realtors don't look at D's and R's. We look at who's impactful. Absolutely. We can get the ball over the goal line. But when you look at the unemployment help that happened for independent contractors, it's unprecedented. Independent contractors have never had help before. No. And the reason the realtors had a voice in the process is 51 years of building relationships. And so we were at the big kids table, not the kids table where you're waiting for the aunt to die. You're at the main table at Thanksgiving. And when we put our hand out and said, here's what we want, we didn't ask for help for realtors. We didn't ask for help for brokers. We asked for help for all independent contractors. Yep. That means the hairdressers, nail techs, insurance agents, contractors, landscapers, carpet guys, cleaners. We made sure that our ask was everybody in our space.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about us. And so if you think politics is supposed to look more like unity and moving things to a place where we can get moving forward together, then you need to be involved with the realtors, because we're the only ones out there doing that.
Absolutely. So if everything we heard was a foreign language to our listeners, where's the first place they should start if they're like, wow, I need to know more about this. I want to get involved. I want to understand. Where should they go?
Go to realtorparty.realtor. And that's where you can see all of the issues that we're working on. You can see the statements that come out from the National Association. So when we're recording this, it's right after the executive order giving all renters pretty much the freedom to stay put until the end of the year, but they kind of forgot to look out for the landlords, and most landlords are mom and pops.
Yep.
So there's a statement from the realtors where we're in a housing coalition with other organizations saying, we get it. We want to take care of our tenants. We don't want them to be homeless, but the landlords have bills to pay too. So we need some help here. That's the kind of stuff you'll find at realtorparty.realtor, so you can go beyond the headline and get the full story.
Yes. Even if you, in California, we call it the true cost of doing business, $149. If you're already at the $149, my ask of you is that you step up to the next level of wherever you are. So if you're currently a California Silver Bear, then maybe you look at being a major investor. If you are not technically a major investor, you look at going up to President Circle. You look up going up, if you're a Sterling R, go to Platinum R. Like, take it up to the next level. And if you don't know what we're talking about, then just start by learning and educating yourself. Because I can tell you, friends, I started my volunteer leadership journey now 5 years ago. I did not know what RPAC was. I did not know what a major investor was. I did not know what the true cost of doing business was. And I was on my board interview and I was asked, why don't you contribute the $149? And I said, true as I'm sitting here today, because no one's ever asked me. And so, friends, I am asking you
to learn more. We're not asking you to invest.
I'm asking you to learn more.
You might be a consumer who's not part of our solicitable class, but if you are a realtor, we're asking you to learn, and we're asking you to reach out to Barbara and get more information.
Yes, and that is why she is the VP of Advocacy in 2021 for the National Association of Realtors. Yes, I'm asking you to learn more, and that's what I did. I educated myself, I empowered myself, I understood what it meant, and then I took action in my own way. So thank you, Leigh Brown, for being here today. You are just a blessing to our real estate industry. I am proud to call you a mentor, but more importantly, after all of this fun relationship talk, I'm proud to call you a friend. Friends, if you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Please leave a wonderful review. Go follow Leigh Brown.
Barb needs
5-star, yes. Go follow Leigh Brown everywhere. She's not hard to find. She has a couple of amazing books. I have one sitting here right on my desk, which is Peeling the Onion.
That's the new book. Yay!
Yes, I have it right here on my desk. I didn't even have to look at it. I knew what it was. So you can find her at leighbrown.com. You can find her on Facebook. You can find, although she doesn't have any more room for friends. So
I do on Insta. There's no limit on Insta.
Yeah, go follow her on Instagram. And thank you again, Leigh, so much for being here today. I appreciate you immensely. And thank you for being a champion for all realtors.
Well, I'm proud of you for getting this off the ground and taking everything you've learned and putting it back out into the universe.
That's what we love to do.
Of abundance. So good job. And I'll see you in person sometime very soon.
Yes. And friends, until next time, we'll see you soon.